Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to move from one aggressively entitled senior Tory to another, as the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, the head of our policing in England and Wales, was outed at the weekend by one of her Tory colleagues as asking if speeding fines could be put on expenses as an MP. There's a lot to unpick there, but first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So, we've got a bit of blue on blue action here, as William Wragg, one of the so-called Red Wall Tories, one of the more impressive ones, but someone who is not standing for re-election next year, recalled a story where new MPs, including himself, including Suella Braverman, were being given training on expenses. He said that Braverman asked if speeding fines accrued while engaged in parliamentary duties could be put on expenses. Needless to say, the answer was no. But let's just consider the multiple levels of entitlement here. So first of all, although you can say the question is hypothetical, when you're asking questions like this, you are asking about hypothetical situations, yes, but ones which might arise. Like, there was no chance of anyone saying, oh, if NASA invites me to Cape Kennedy, can I put that on the expenses? They were asking about things which they thought might arise. So Braverman was basically suggesting that she is in the habit of speeding. Maybe it's all the time, maybe it's just occasional, but she's in the habit of speeding. She's certainly thinking that there's a chance she'll be caught speeding as an MP. That's a realistic prospect, which is why it's worth her asking. That can only mean she had credible plans to speed at least occasionally as an MP. Doesn't matter whether she habitually speeds or now and then, it must mean on occasion she breaks the law. Bad enough that some people think this is okay or that they can be a good judge of when it's all right. But Braverman, at this point, was now an MP, a member of our national legislature. She was going to be deciding our laws. The laws that everyone in the land, herself included, is supposed to be bound by. And here she was, asking a question, surrounded by other legislators and some officials, asking a question which marked her out as someone, if not directly planning to break the law, at least considering that she might choose to at some point in the future. Another thing to consider is that Braverman was asking if she could use her position as an MP to avoid part of the consequences of this law breaking. That when she's caught and she's thinking to herself, well, I speed from time to time, bound to get caught at some point. So when she's caught, she receives a fine. She's thinking, can I get the taxpayer to cover the cost? That's a pretty appalling suggestion for three reasons, I think. First, she's asking if she can be made a special case. Like an ordinary member of the public would always be liable for payment of their criminal fines. Nobody would seriously ask their boss to cover their fine if they were speeding to get to work on time. So she is asking if she can be a special case as an MP. Basically, she's fine with being part of an elite which does not have to follow the usual procedures that the rest of us do. Second, it's not just that she wants someone else to cover the costs of her future criminality. She specifically wants taxpayers to foot the bill. Now, Conservatives like to think of themselves as being focused on, good value for taxpayer money. Oh, we don't like to waste the taxes, you see. This is a waste of money on tax. Oh, hospitals, no, total waste of money, can't have that. It's a sick joke, of course. They all claim that, they're focused on value for taxpayer money. Yet here was a Conservative MP asking if she could waste public money on avoiding some consequences of her own law-breaking actions. And third, she's very wealthy. She seems to have had a fairly successful career before entering Parliament. She's got plenty of money. The serious consequence to her of speeding is surely any penalty points which may be applied to her licence. The fine itself would be nothing, peanuts. For someone like her, it's not even worth thinking about. The sort of money she would never miss. This isn't like someone who's hard up. They get a fine and think, oh my, they will happily try and find some way of evading responsibility for it because paying that fine means they are going to have to cut back somewhere else. Braverman could have paid this fine and not spent a second thinking about it again, because it would not impact any future spending habits or plans for the rest of her life. Easily lost, doesn't even notice. And this, in a way, is why we know about this now, years later. Her colleague, William Wragg, has recounted the story this weekend, presumably because he's had enough of what people like her are doing to his party. Because although I can use data to show that Conservative governments provide very poor value for public money and how they are truly terrible at managing crime and disorder, many Conservatives do believe in the rule of law and in value for public money. They're just really bad at it. Braverman was, for a time, the Attorney General. She was responsible for informing Cabinet about the legality of their policies. It was clear from the start that Johnson appointed her because she was prepared to lie about the legal position. Like previous Attorneys General, even some fairly unpleasant ones like Geoffrey Cox, he's very in your face, they've never been prepared to lie about the legality of government plans. I remember once when Theresa May tried to get Geoffrey Cox, who was her Attorney General, to tell Parliament that a particular thing to do with, I can't remember exactly what it was, something to do with Brexit was legal. And he was basically going, well, it's not, is it? And he wouldn't do it. Because the most lawyers will not actually lie about the law because it risks their professional reputation. Sorry, these are people who want to still be lawyers after leaving Parliament. In fact, Geoffrey Cox spends most of his time lawyering as an MP. So they don't want to damage their professional reputation. Obviously, Boris Johnson found in Braverman someone who didn't care about that. Johnson obviously knew of her character when he appointed her. And she was then, remember, she was reappointed Home Secretary by Rishi Sunak, the current Prime Minister, just 6 days after being sacked for wantonly threatening national security. Nothing less than threatening national security as Home Secretary. She was utterly unrepentant about it, so she's presumably still threatening our national security in exactly the same ways. She's now engaged in plans to force Parliament to give her the power to ignore court judgments regarding her unworkable asylum plans. Even if it all passes, it's very unlikely, but even if it all passes, it's still not going to solve the asylum problem. All she's going to do is destroy our international reputation. Today's Sunday Telegraph front page has the headline, Braverman, I'm ready to defy judges on migrants. What does defy judges mean? It means break the law. Openly break the law, in fact, if you're going to ignore judges. That newly elected MP who was asking about the procedure for when she broke the law is now getting a much larger group of MPs to collude in her law breaking. Unlikely to get away with it, as I say, of course, because I gather the House of Lords are not especially interested in allowing laws to pass which will kick the crap out of our international standing by breaking international laws. But this latest revelation just speaks volumes about the incredibly selfish, entitled character of our incredibly unworthy Home Secretary. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships, and until next time, I'll see you later.